Welcome to the Jiu Jitsu Journal, Episode 7. I am joined by Jack Lithcake Carrasco. I am your host, Keegan Muad'Dib Worthington. But we today are going over Oliver Taza versus Tainan Dalpra at Who's Number 1, number 22. Opening thoughts with this. When I first heard about this match, I thought Oliver Taza was going to submit Tainan Dalpra pretty easily when I first heard about this match, because this is Tainan Dalpra's second match in no-gi. And I thought Taza was just going to heel hook him because he's a notorious technician in no-gi, trains under John Danaher, and is one of the new wave guys. So I thought he was just going to roll through him. Did you know anything about this matchup coming when it happened?
Yeah, I'm fairly familiar with both of them. I also know Taza to be a pretty technical leg locker. And I have watched a couple matches of Tainan's before this. I've actually watched a couple of his gi matches. And then his first no-gi match against whoever that was.
Bald guy,
where you kind of dog walked him in the mount. So I knew Tainan was good, but obviously Taza is a pretty formidable opponent. They actually kind of introduced him in the match as like a gatekeeper in no-gi. Obviously he's won trials in the past. This recent trials run, he's medaled at all four that he's competed in. He's very, very good. So this was a big test for Tainan.
Yeah. Going into this, I knew I was a huge fan of Tainan and gi, just watching a lot of gi footage of him. Just because he's like an absolute hammer. Yeah. And like he throws people around. He don't give an F. And also, he has a very good record in gi, which is also like super impressive because you don't see it that often, especially in gi because these people compete so often. But he was 82-2 in gi, which is crazy.
Yeah, I think before the Gomez match, I think he was on a 50 match win streak.
Yeah,
in the gi, which is insane.
His two losses only came to Gomez too. So he lost to in black belt too recently. But yeah, crazy. He's an absolute hammer, like amazing in gi. But whenever people make the transition to no gi, I'm always a little skeptical. But yeah, so we're at the minute 30 of the video, but we'll go off match time once it starts. Is there anything else you want to say before we get started?
I don't think so.
I'll just mention too how young Tainan is to being as experienced as he is.
Yeah, that is something that I think I kind of knew he was young, but when for whatever reason, his age wasn't on my mind. So when I watched this yesterday for notes, I was like, "Holy shit, he's only 23."
Yeah. And I'll bring it up now because I even talk about it a little later. This is technically middleweight, but Tainan almost has like 5 pounds or 10 pounds on Taza. And in this situation, I wouldn't be surprised if it was even more because Tainan had to probably cut to 185 and there's no way Taza would cut to 177.8.
Yeah, no,
exactly.
That's probably just what he was walking around at that day.
Right. So like we'll give all the props. There's still a huge weight difference, I think, between these athletes. And you see it too when the match is going on.
And that is one thing actually that I'll mention before this is that that is one thing I really appreciate about Taza is he's just a gamer.
Yeah, he's a gamer. This
was a week before the second European trials.
Oh, wow.
He was like, yeah, fuck it, I'll do a match.
Yeah, no, I even talk about it in our notes too, that no matter where the match goes, Taza's in it the entire time, and he doesn't. This guy is a gamer, and he doesn't quit, and it's really great. But yeah, we're at the 130 mark. We're gonna start up now. It's gonna jump like right into the match. And I'll call out time stamps and when we're pausing it and slow-moing if you want to follow along while listening on Spotify or Podbean. Yeah, we're at the 14:50 of the match right now. They're just exchanging call-in ties, fighting for inside position. And you notice how like they are both have the exact same game plan. And that's battling for inside position and kind of like getting the single leg.
Yeah, they both have almost the exact same plan on the feet. But as you'll see as the match goes on, kind of one person of the two was able to actually act on the game plan.
Yeah. And it's funny because we talked about it in Marigali versus Keenan or Kynan.
Yeah.
When they were going against each other, Marigali was fighting for the inside position, and Taza is another one of these new wave guys who kind of has the same exact game plan and style and habits. But also Tainan, I feel like, has the exact kind of style and habits too. So this is what happens when you have those two styles meet. Right? And I've found that when two style types and techniques meet, the bigger athlete, the stronger guy usually wins. Like if the technique is equalized, the guy who's the bigger guy and the athlete will win.
Yes.
I'm going to pause right here. I think on this first single leg, we're at the 13:20 mark. I'm just going to go back and we're going to go through it in slow-mo. Just because I think it's actually pretty cool. I don't know if it's technically... it's unorthodox to me, but he does like a crossbody.
Yeah, I have seen like this setup before, and I think it's pretty slick. He is constantly pummeling these collar ties on Taza, and uses that same look of like shooting a collar tie to then push far shoulder to snatch up the near leg for a single.
Yeah.
Just kind of pushing Taza's weight to his far leg so he can snatch up the rear leg.
Yeah, we're at half speed at the 13:22 mark as he picks up the single leg. And we're just going to go slow-mo until they hit the ground. Spoiler alert, they hit the ground.
Yeah. And another thing here, Tainan, really good single leg.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of Muay Thai kicks him there, but...
Which was something I was going to talk about because you just did a class recently. We're at the 3:12 mark. I'm just going to pause. We just did a class about coming up on a single leg from De La Riva. But Jack shows how to take out that far leg with this crossbody ankle grip.
Yeah, you'll see. I will fully admit I kind of got this from Tainan, and then like watched this match and then kind of like researched single legs post that. But from that kind of like high single leg crossbody position, he then reaches over and kind of like wraps Taza's quad, so he can pull Taza's quad to the outside, right? That being his left, Taza's right. So that way, as he kicks or like trips the far leg, he can pull Taza's knee in that direction. Mm-hmm. So the first time he attempts it, Taza's a little too pointed away. He's almost kind of like showing his back to a degree. So when he goes to kick his leg, he actually just kind of kicks his leg and doesn't trip him because Taza's weight's in the wrong direction. So then he resituates and gets that quad grip, so now he can actually pull with the trip.
Yeah. And would you say he's kicking a little high? Because
the first time he kicked him like the hamstring, which is not gonna trip him. But
I think he hits him again just above the knee. I'm hitting it slow-mo at the 13:10 mark. And you see Taza reaching down to see if the leg, thinking the leg's going to come up so he can.
Yeah.
He feints a kick there. Boom. Okay. He gets him more in like the calf area, but he gets him on the ground.
And then he kind of like slides up.
Yeah.
With it, but.
Yeah. And I think Taza kind of went down a little bit there. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think Taza kind of knew it was a losing battle. He kind of like turns back like into him.
Yeah.
I think he feels his balance going too, and then after this kick, he just like is like, all right, yeah. And then he's like, all right, and then he throws the leg over for a guard. He doesn't try to scramble away.
Yeah, which is honestly, it's pretty smart by Taza. like recognizing that you're in a pretty deep single leg situation here. Because another thing that I kind of went over in the single leg class is that grip that he has on the thigh there kind of prevents Taza from potentially limp legging, like turning and kicking his foot out. So from that point, it's going to be pretty difficult for Taza to strip that single leg out. So once Tainan goes in for that sweep again, Taza, you can see, kind of just accepts it and goes right into playing his guard, which is smart.
All right. We're at the 13:07 mark, and we're going to go back into normal speed. This is one thing. So I thought Taza was just going to leg lock Tainan, right, when I first heard it, just because, more experienced no-gi grappler, known for his leg locks and being a technician. But I didn't really take into account that how hard it would be to get under someone like Tainan.
Yeah.
Like, because his head is so forward in his passing and how far his heels are back. Like, it looks like he's consistently just hamstring kind of curling his heels to his butt. Like, he's very head forward, like, and very aware to keep his opponent from getting up and under him.
Also, this passing sequence I absolutely love. So he forces half guard and immediately looks to cover like the corners on Taza's body. So that kind of like low underhook, tight waist, getting his knee into his hip pit, and uses that to tilt Taza into like a body lock from half guard, forcing to quarter guard on the far side, and then like shin pinning and kicking out. Just a beautiful pass.
Yeah.
But to Taza's credit, keeps Tainan's head on the same side as his hips, which allows him to start scrambling up. With this kind of over back grip. Also kind of a funny moment there.
Yeah.
Taza's like, hey, you want your ankle band back? He's like, no, fuck that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's at the 11:32 mark. Yeah, he tries to give him his ankle.
Oh, okay.
It's the ref actually just takes it, throws it away. So I was like, okay. Yeah, and they're resetting 11:33, 11:32 of the match. Yeah. And again, just fighting for inside position. But also, you'll notice Taza really doesn't want Tainan to get an overhook. Really doesn't like him having an overhook.
Yeah.
Because of stuff like that. But throughout the match, you see as soon as he gets an overhook, Taza just rips it out. He doesn't want him to have one at all. Maybe I was going to be part of my takeaways, but I can even mention it now. This is why it's actually kind of valuable to be really known for your guard passing. Because it forces, now like Taza is mostly a guard player.
Yeah, mostly a guard player and wrestles this entire match.
Yes, because he knows if he decides to play guard, Tainan's just going to maul him.
Yeah. And even just had an experience within the first 5 minutes of this match where the first instance of him playing guard and Tainan body locked him and passed almost immediately.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's very important to just restate when we are going against guard players or people that, I guess play guard, it's just like, just get good at guard passing and you won't have to deal with guard players anymore.
You'll make them wrestle with you.
They'll want to wrestle with you. So any of you guys who are wrestlers who are tired of guard players, just get so good at that playing guard that they don't even want to play guard against you again. That's the trick.
Yeah.
But yeah, they both have the almost the exact same kind of game plan. He does that actually quite a bit in gi, that tripping single.
Yeah.
Is it inside or an outside trip? I'm gonna go back. It's a failed attempt, but it still is very common. So yeah, I rewinded it back. at the 10-minute mark of the match. I'm going to put it in like slow-mo. Because this is just a really good takedown setup. And it works in gi and no gi. But he goes for an arm drag and tries to trip on the inside. Yeah, that's like one of his classics. But that's a really good one. If like you guys are really thinking about something, that arm drag to just fall into one knee to try and catch that leg. Really good.
It was actually really the only way that I arm drag now.
Yeah, really?
Yeah. Whenever I hit arm drags, I almost always try to trip that near leg.
Yeah. Instead of going around to the back.
Yeah.
And I think you can see like how aggressive Taza is with his hand fighting, but I find that it's weird. Watching this match, it feels like Taza is the better hand fighter, but Tainan is the stronger hand fighter. Like he kind of is bullying him.
I think there is definitely through the weight and strength discrepancy. Because you'll notice that Taza is getting to positions first and almost kind of beating him on grip exchanges. But for the majority of the time on the feet, Taza's head is lower than Tainan's.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that Tainan is just so strong and much bigger than him, that with his collar ties, he's able to stuff Taza's head to a degree.
And they look so much more hefty.
Yeah.
And actually before this takedown, I know this is a big moment, but we got to go back. Because I think this is actually really important. And I got to shout it out for like all the wrestlers who will talk about it. But the main moments where, we're at the 8:51 mark. I'm going to show in slow-mo. Tainan does this actually quite a bit. And if you're fast enough, I guess you could take an advantage of it. But I think it's a hard ass for Taza. But Tainan is really slow on his resets. Or like here.
Yeah. Hands out, kind of hopping around.
Standing straight. And Taza's already here. But this is why, and again, this is a different sport than wrestling. You get punished a lot more for a failed shot in submission grappling than you do wrestling.
Yep. But it is a good thing to point out. I don't know if you follow Barry Robinson at all. He's a striking coach. He's very known for his view of what he calls rhythm stepping, right? You see it more often in striking, but there's also something, as an example for Tainan here on his reset, that kind of like hop to kind of like reset himself. It's like an instinctual thing that you'll see more often in like striking or MMA. And like to your point, if you can recognize that someone has a rhythm step, right? Of like on every reset, they kind of bounce and like kind of shake it out before they get back in. Then you could potentially time that for a shot or some sort of offense.
And again, I guess a little bit off topic about it too, but like you see it in just MMA with like Dustin Poirier and Corey
Sandhagen. The short pull or, Justin Hare. It's like a bad habit that is now instinctual.
Yeah.
It's like if you can recognize the timing of that habit, then you can capitalize on it.
Yeah. And, I think Corey Sandhagen said he had one that he had to drill out.
Yeah.
Because he kept on doing it. And so, but he does this actually throughout the match. And like, I guess if it was wrestling or something, that'd be a great time to do like a low ankle pick or something like that.
Yeah, an ankle pick or just a blast double through the middle.
Yeah, but at the same time, like the consequences are much more severe. And is Taza the person to capitalize on those things?
Probably not.
I wouldn't think so because he's not that fast or experienced at shooting doubles.
Yeah.
All right. So we're starting up at 8:48 again. I'm going to go normal speed, but we'll probably pause it again to see this takedown by Tainan. Yeah. He just grabs a single and pushes him down with the other hand.
Yeah, kind of a club almost.
And he just runs. He just runs at him, and he gets this really deep grip on the leg. And he doesn't really drop his knees or levels that much. It's maybe a minor dip, but I would compare this more to a snatching of a single. It's like in between of a snatch and a shot. But Like a snatch single would be like barely bending and trying to just pick it up versus, shooting. And he just gets this grip. And this is what I was talking about, how his grip power is just better than Taza's, because there's a couple times where Taza would get this grip on Tainan's leg, but he wouldn't be able to keep a grip on it.
Yeah, it would just slip right off.
Versus here, he gets this grip and he just shoots right through him and pushes him down and goes right into passing. Head forward. Yeah.
And again, like, I think Taza kind of conceded a little bit in this moment, but you notice, like, with Tainan's passing, like, the thing that he's doing in all of his passing attempts is, like, trying to get into or almost kind of melt into those corners, right? Like, my arm is at the waist, so my knee and his hip.
Knee up to the crook of his leg.
Yeah, knee up to the crook of his leg. Like, he understands that if you can occupy those spots quickly before they can get frames in, then your pass attempt is going to be much more likely, or your pinning is going to be much more effective.
Yeah. And I've noticed, like, we talk about dilemmas, but usually a lot of the times it's due to submissions. But here he's putting a dilemma on Taza, and it's, okay, what would you rather be, flattened out or give me your back?
Right.
And that's the dilemma he's doing here. It's not necessarily, this isn't side, this isn't mount, this isn't necessarily much. He's just more near his hips, but it's like, just tell me what you want to give me.
Yeah.
And Taza has to almost be in this position where he says, I can't flatten out and I can't give him my back. So he's just stuck here in this in-betweeny type position.
Yeah. Which is also a much more exhausting position for Taza to be in, right? Like, obviously being flattened out and bottom side is tough and it is tiring. But, to a certain degree, you can get frames in and potentially turn towards, like he manages to do here, right? But if you're slightly turned away, your frames can't get in contact with the person on top. And you're forced to constantly deal with the fact of, like, oh, they could take my back at any moment.
Dude, he must be otherworldly strong.
Yeah, I mean, look at him.
He's fucking jacked. But he must be so strong. But even, we'll pause it at the 6:43 mark, because we were talking about quarter guard in the Wardzinski match. But I think it's, I don't know if Craig is like psychic or something like that, but this type of stuff is getting so much more popular in the submission grappling, where it's almost like finding the positions before the dominant positions and just cooking from there.
Yeah.
And then saying, I'm only going to take these back control, these top mounts, once I'm ready to submit them.
Yeah. Or if they give them to me.
Yeah. Right.
Like, if they get so tired of being in quarter guard or, like, flat in half, and they just give me a pass or they give me their back, then I'll take it. But I'm not going to force it.
Yeah, and I feel like getting better at riding your opponent from all these different positions is just, like, again, the dilemma of positional dilemma, not just submission dilemma.
Right.
All right, starting up at 6:42. And I noticed too, what Tainan is always doing is he always has one of his arms either wrapped around the back of his head or wrapped around his face. It's like a crossface from the back or crossface from the front, always connected to his shoulders.
Yeah.
And then hips always over hips. Yeah.
Yeah, Tainan does a really good job of like pinning, but with these kind of like pulling grips of like constantly pulling Taza into himself as he drives forward. Kind of like doubling the pressure on Taza. But to his credit, Taza, super good defensively.
Yes.
Like this scramble from bottom back up to standing is just like beautiful.
And Tainan smiled about it. 148, yeah. We can just go through this whole sequence actually real fast. Just real fast.
It's something that I put down in my notes here about how Taza escapes bottom pins of almost turtling, right? Like about here, and then using it to like Granby almost immediately.
Yeah.
And here,
That back strap.
yeah, that over back grip. Like he has kind of a 2-pronged system where either one, he'll Granby into the legs, which he does a little bit later, or he'll Granby to that over back and run out. There's a really slick kind of like pin escape system that he has.
Yeah. And I
really like.
I do like the over the back, like almost like an octopus, this.
Yeah.
Because it's not meant to generate offense. It's just meant to keep it so he can track where these hips are so they don't connect to him. It's not really meant for offense. It's just so he can move this leg back.
Yeah, it's so he can heist that bottom leg and start running around the corner.
Yeah, and then Tainan gives up on it because he realizes how exhausting it would be to just keep chasing.
Right.
It's just more of that one thing where it's like, just cut your losses and reset. And we're at the 5:48 mark and they've stand back up.
Yeah. And like you said, like that huge grin on Taitan's face when they stand up, I'm like, oh, that was good.
Yeah, that was a good one. Well, also, I think part of it was just confidence because he knows how, like, I just melted how many minutes of the match just dominating. Yeah. And this is what we were talking about, too, before, how Taza's kind of a gamer. He doesn't lose any... Okay, I got distracted. We got to go back and watch this insanely fast fireman's carry. It failed.
Yeah.
But it's fast.
So fast.
This is another one of those things he does in gi a lot. And I think the reason it didn't work is because he couldn't find the grip that he normally has.
Right.
But yeah, we're at the 5:24 mark. I've actually been doing more firemen's.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. But he does it off an overhook. I do it just off a wrist. Yeah. But see, and then this is why he also bounces out, which is going to come in later in our takeaways. Taza gets a headlock, and Tainan immediately backs out.
Yeah.
Because this is the problem with shooting in submission grappling. Boom. And this is why it didn't work. It's because he posted. And he didn't keep this.
Yeah, he drops that overhook arm off.
And I would make the argument, this is where when I do my fireman's, I do it off hand grips or sleeve. And then I can pull this sleeve all the way over the top of my head versus this. So when he does his shot, he completely ditches, or the hand slips off.
Right.
Because he can't keep the grip. And then he gets in this headlock and immediately pushes Taza off, and they reset at 5:11. Bam. But I was gonna say is Taza's a gamer, and he's in this match the whole time, and he doesn't get discouraged. And that's one thing I'll give to him as a person is like, there's nowhere in this match where he gives up.
Yeah, no, he's in it from beginning to end. Like, I think it's like a major credit to Taza is he has the confidence in his mind of like, no matter how much momentum Tainan builds in this match, Taza constantly has the confidence of like, okay, but if I can get to where I want to be, like I could win this.
Yeah, and he's always active, and I'll give it to him. Like he's got a gas tank.
Yeah, dude can just go.
And I think that's what he's actually thinking in his head right now is, all right, well, I have to continue just working because if I'm going to win this now, it has to be submission. It has to be from outworking this guy.
Right.
You can see it too. Tainan is getting a little tired. But there we go. And that's kind of the match right there. And I'm going to reiterate one more time. This is why it's so hard to shoot in submission grappling. Because we have
one bad shot could lead to getting stuck on bottom for 5 minutes.
Yeah. there's 4 minutes and 30 seconds, and I don't want to be spoilers, but they don't stand up for the rest of the match.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, to his credit, Taza, super good defensively, right?
Good guard player.
Really good guard player, really good at inverting and grabbing out of things. So on that failed shot, Tainan had sort of a dominant position, kind of a front headlock, almost kind of a go behind. Taza immediately inverted to guard. Tainan does pass here, but I believe Taza does this kind of like almost turtling thing again. Actually, no, here he side guards, but
I think he realizes, he's like, fudge, dude, he's just going to keep doing the same thing to me.
Yeah.
Which is just keeping his head low and pressuring. And cross-facing.
Yeah. Which makes it really tough for Taza to get off his game plan.
Yeah.
Right? Like Taza, being a leg locker, wants to get the Tainan's hips in his legs, right? But with the like pressure-heavy style of passing that Tainan has, of head forward, hips and legs back, it's very difficult for Taza to get into any sort of elevation or entry that he wants.
And then, boom, right there. That's what you were talking about.
Yeah. This,
at the 312 mark, 311 mark, he elevates his hips.
Yeah. And this group, to me, is pretty cool. I haven't seen this before.
Paused at 305.
He inverts almost like to a leg drag, but has a scoop on the bottom, which I think is very cool. I think there's a moment later where I kind of see where he's going with this. I think the idea is to switch this to like an outside ashi, but something I'm definitely going to play with in the gym. I think this like almost kind of like half turtle to this like scoop grip is like a super cool idea on Taza's part.
Mm-hmm. But you can tell Tainan knows this is his only way out of this match. Oh, shit. This is the only way out of this match. Go back a little bit, sorry. To the 257 mark. Because he fights this super hard.
Yeah.
Because he's like, I cannot let this guy in on my legs.
Yeah. Like immediately grips around his head and just pulls.
Yeah. And
he's like, I need to break that grip immediately. If he elevates me on my and gets to my leg, I'm fucked.
Yeah. Which is good because he still knows what his weaknesses are. And you can even see there for a second at like the 230 mark, he's getting his hand on his ankle and it's just, gets his hips low, immediately gets down on him. But yeah, Tainan just pressuring forward.
Yeah. Taza again
tries the same kind of grip.
Gets to a very similar position. Tainan, to his credit, switches sides, puts him kind of back in a half guard. And Tainan's passing is just really good.
Yeah.
Constantly switching grips, but staying in those like important zones, right? Yeah. Like tight waist on the hip or an arm across the hips. Constantly has a crossface or pulling his shoulders into him.
Yeah. And I think a lot of the time too, like maybe this is BS, but a lot of the time I find that pressure passing can be boring. But Tainan is one of these guys who kind of makes it unboring because he's trying to take your head off the entire time. It's not like I'm here to stall. He's here to pass and take your head off.
And I think part of that is due to, and see Taza again, almost gets that same grip, but at this point now they're pretty slippery.
And I don't even, I think it's because they're slippery, but I also think because Tainan knows it's a minute, he just starts becoming more and more explosive because It's like, I just can't let him hold anything because it's just like, okay, explosivity, boom.
Yeah.
He just starts picking it up.
Yeah, he definitely picks up the pace towards the end here. What kind of something you mentioned at the beginning of these grips like on the shoulders that is something I'm going to implement myself. Watching Tainan of pressure passing, but not just in a sense of driving forward, but also pulling them into you.
Yeah.
Right? To kind of like double the amount of pressure that you put on your opponent. Yeah, here just back for really spazzy footlock. Then
I think that's more of what was
just starts trying to style on him, honestly.
I think part of it's an ego move because he just wants to show that maybe he can heel hook or knows what he's doing. So, because I think that probably was the conversation coming into it. Yeah. Like, it's not no stranger. That's probably what he heard is like, can this guy leg lock?
Yeah. He tries a little gator roll and do some fancy shit at the end here, but
yeah.
And but again, to his credit, Taza in it the whole time.
Always game. So I guess we can give him back. They're doing some replays now, but we can give him that. But I don't think it's actually like a debate who won.
No.
Like, Tainan just came at him and just never stopped. It's part of my takeaways. It's because I think it's because this is where we get to the point where as much as we might want to train like our brain to be the best athlete we can, like with techniques and stuff, sometimes the guy is just bigger, stronger, harder to move than you, and they have the technique to also back it up. So it's like, what else can you really do about it other than trying to get bigger and stronger?
Right. I mean, also, like, I think it's also just a credit to how good his passing is. Mm-hmm. And, like, definitely implemented a style of guard passing that kind of negates Taza's A game, right? Mm-hmm. Like, if he were to try to, kind of like loose or outside pass, or just kind of like try to blast knee cuts from the outside, he would kind of be giving Taza entries that he wants. Mm-hmm. Whereas by constantly forcing half guard, jamming himself into those corners, tight waist, knee in the hip, head forward, pulling Taza's shoulders into him, really negates like Taza's A game in this match.
Yeah.
Which I feel like is a very purposeful move on Tainan's part. So really just like really smart game planning. Yeah. This movement's also like super weird. I didn't understand this until afterwards because I guess he's like the kids coach. Yeah. But there's just like a really awkward note from the cameraman that like, lingers on this like little girl at the ground like 30 seconds. You're like, okay, you want to move on maybe? Yeah. But it's because he's a kids coach. So still weird, but
yeah. But yeah. Yeah. So a good match, and like I think it really shows off the versatility of Tainan's game and like his ability to when we were talking about Mika Galvao, people who are really technically good enough to switch rule sets. I think Tainan is one of those guys where we're seeing it more and more where people are taking the best parts or what they can from their gi game and bringing it to no gi and finding a way to make it work.
Right.
And I think
yeah, just a super good showing by Tainan. And against, again, a really good opponent in Oliver Taza. Like, again, has medaled at, I believe, like 6, maybe more than that, trials. Has won trials before. He's been to ADCC. Is an absolute gamer.
Yeah.
Like, again, did this match a week before European trials. Just like, yeah, fuck it. I want a match.
And it's also like if I was like Tainan's coach, I honestly probably would have told him, can we pick someone a little less experienced in no gi, right? Yeah. Like that's what I would say. But that just shows the confidence that Tainan has in his own game too.
Yeah, I mean, like this was a gamble on Tainan's part. You know what I mean? Like Taza could have, if he got to some of those positions earlier on, Could have very easily locked Tainan in the first 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So this was a huge gamble on Tainan's part of I believe I am this good.
Yeah. So I guess we'll just go right into our takeaways. Mine is, I think I was just talking about it before, but I'll just say it one more time. When technique equalizes, the intangibles are gonna.
Yeah.
Those are what's gonna win you the fights, or the matches, is once a technique is the same. So it's I always tell people, train your mind, and you have to. People who watch more tape, who love the sport more than you, are gonna beat you. But also at the same time, if you love the sport, there's gonna be times where there's certain people who don't love the sport as much as you, but they're bigger and stronger than you, and they will beat you too.
Yep.
So if one is lacking, make sure you fill up that other one. So if you find that you're smarter than your opponents, but you're just getting beat athletically, get better athletically.
Get better athletically.
Yeah.
And also, I think there's something to be said about when it gets to, really any level, but especially at that level, you can't just be a specialist.
Yeah.
You really need to have other aspects of your game fleshed out. So for instance, obviously Taza was in it the whole time, is an absolute gamer, and could have won this match. But, is known as a guard player, is known as a technical leg locker. But, like I said, medaled at all of the recent trials, but didn't win any of them, right? Was in this match the whole time, but didn't win it, right? There's an aspect of his game that's lacking. That, if he were to implement, perhaps better wrestling, or wrestling up, or some other threat than inverting to the legs, then he could probably break through that plateau and start winning matches like this.
Yeah.
And that kind of translates not just there, but also down, to hobbyists, or average competitors of, if you are getting beat by guys who are just bigger and stronger, but, you have an understanding of you're technically better, there's probably something in your game that's just not there. Right.
And as stupid as it sounds, what has allowed me as a player, from personal experience, what allows me to beat people who are more athletic than I am, is playing games that are considered tricky or BS, because it's stuff people don't prepare for. And sometimes it's you have to be that person to take them to the weird place that they've never been before to win.
Yeah.
All right. And he needed to try and take him to one of those places he had never been before, other than legs.
Right. Something other than just trying to hunt the legs the whole time. Right.
Because he can prepare for something like that if it's something he knows.
Right.
Right.
And personally for me, I've had kind of a similar realization recently in my own game. And one of many things that I've attempted to implement is octopus, right?
Yeah.
Forcing a really funky, weird position on people, to initiate a scramble and initiate some sort of, possible switch to offense.
Yeah.
Instead of just trying to invert the legs constantly, you have to have some other avenue if that doesn't work.
Yeah. My other takeaway was snatch singles versus shots, which is going to come into account. We're filming 2 episodes today, so it's going to be in our next episode too. Sorry for spoiling it, but probably going to talk about it there too. Yeah, but because we get a lot of messages from people talking about wrestling and how, well, if this person was a wrestler, they would have been able to take him down. And I'm but there's a reason they don't. If it was that easy, someone would have done it. Right. It's because if you fail at a deep shot, you are in a terrible, terrible position for submission grappling.
Right.
You will fall into an inverted triangle if you go too low towards the ankle. You'll fall into a Darce front headlock, a Peruvian necktie. There are so many head and neck attacks that come off of your head being low to the ground and the other person being on your back or around you.
Right. And to that point, you see it twice in this match. Like an instance where Tainan does the fireman's and Taza snatches a front headlock, and Tainan immediately just abandons the takedown and backs away because he knows he's in serious danger. Towards the end of the match, Taza shoots a takedown, gets stuffed, and ends up on bottom for the next 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Right. I guess kind of dig this episode a little bit. The fights last night, UFC 300. The opening minute of Oliver Sarukian, I believe it came off a strike, but then Sarukian dives on a takedown, and Charles immediately sprawls, headlock, and almost puts him in a guillotine in the first minute of the match.
Yeah.
Having your head lower than your opponent's armpit or hips puts you in serious danger in submission grappling.
Yeah, and in wrestling where you literally aren't allowed to choke people.
Yeah.
You aren't allowed to intentionally break someone's arm. Yeah, it completely changes
the game.
So, and even myself, I don't know if I naturally do this, because I don't like having people on top of me.
Yeah.
Go figure. Weird how that works. I don't like people being on top of me.
Yeah.
So what I've always kind of been attracted to snatch signals anyways, and it's probably because I've come up in submission grappling as my number one.
Right.
So I'm probably going to favor that. So that's why we see it in submission grappling too. And I would honestly recommend, if you're someone who's starting submission grappling, I wouldn't even recommend you learn how to do a shooting single.
Honestly,
I think it's kind of like one of those.
I kind of wouldn't either. And when you think about just in terms of the matches that we've done for the podcast, Tainan, almost all of those were snatch singles. Miragali, Kynan were all snatch singles. You look at the highest level, none of them are shooting their knees. Even lower levels, you don't really see that.
Yeah. And it's a very
kind of more efficient and also more effective is
less dangerous.
Less dangerous, hitting some sort of arm drag to get to a single, or pushing into a single, or just snatching a single, instead of dropping to your knees.
Which I'm not even trying to roast or be mean to the whole idea. Maybe you can have a really good, nice shooting single, but if I'm teaching someone how to be the most effective, technically correct and safest way, I'm going to teach someone how to do a snatch, snatch single. But yeah. Alrighty. I was going to say I really liked, and I think I already do this quite a bit, but it's kind of that the dilemmas we were talking about before, positional dilemmas, and being how you're saying, being good at almost as many top positions as possible. So making your opponent choose between and saying okay, you're going to be in one of these positions. You better choose now which one you're going to be in, and all of them are going to suck.
Yeah, both choices are bad, but you choose for me.
You choose for me, and whatever you choose, I'm going to try and be one step ahead of you. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the two major takeaways for me are, one, Tainan's passing. There's a bunch of things I saw in this match that I'm immediately going to try to implement. That kind of body lock entry from half guard he does at the beginning. I think it's sweet. I'm definitely going to try to do that. As well as I noticed a grip chain that he does from half guard of either trying to underhook crossface or over back and then in front of the hips. So he kind of switches between these two grips to free his knee. Really slick. And with both of those, not just driving forward, but also pulling the opponent into you, right, to kind of switch those grips back and forth. I think it's really, really slick.
Yeah.
And then also Taza's like bottom pin escape game, I think is like pretty sweet. His ability to turtle away without exposing his back, because of the kind of like hip post he has, and using that either to the overback or that kind of like funky inversion. I'm definitely gonna play around both of those.
Yeah, I particularly like that grip. That
kind of like weird scoop grip.
Well, not that one. I'm thinking of Tainan, where he like grips up here near the neck all the way around and just gets a meat of the trap, like the top of it, and just pulls them in. And it's, even if they turn into you, it's a crossface, and then you can also use it to keep someone close to you. Yeah. But yeah, great showing by Tainan. Yeah. And again, the last takeaway I had was talking about the Jacob couch we talked about a little bit. If you want someone to want to stand, or you want someone to avoid playing guard, get really good at guard passing to where it sucks to be under someone that's like a really good guard passer.
Yeah, make them dread playing guard against you.
And then you won't have problems with guard players.
And then you can wrestle again.
Yes, and then you can wrestle again. And honestly, if you're having a problem, I find it too as a weird complaint when people have problems with guard players, because I feel like guard passing and wrestling, those two things seem like the most similar things to me.
Right.
In jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, I think especially if you think of passing in terms of like Tainan style, at least in this match, of like really heavy pressure passing, balls of his feet head forward. Like, in a way, it's just kind of a much lower wrestling stance.
Yeah.
Right.
And you're just going forward still.
Like, if you think about it in terms of like wrestling the guard instead of passing the guard, hitting a lot of body locks, knee cuts, like.
Well, and even with Toriando passing, I feel like there's a lot of that quick move.
Toriando, yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of that movement, the sliding. I figure the two translate pretty well together, but whatever. But yeah, that's all I really wanted to go on. Takeaways. But I'll just say, Tainan, I'm really looking forward to all his matches coming up. I really think he's really talented, and he's only 23. So he's got
insane to me.
He has a long career ahead of him. Yeah. He's got a long career ahead of him, and he's going to be very good for a very long time. I look at him and I'm like, I don't know how you get better. Like, I watch him and I'm like, I don't know what gets better. Like, maybe he gets better at leg locking and stuff like that, but
yeah, I suppose maybe leg locks.
Wrestling. He could get better on the feet.
I mean, I guess, but I don't know. Yeah, there's it's weird. Like, sky's the limit, but also he's already really good.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I see him probably going to. We were talking about it actually before. We were talking about his ADCC prospects. He's not in it this year, but I guarantee he goes to ADCC in 2 years.
Yeah, I guarantee it. I think his, as I imagine his plan, is he's kind of working into Nogi at a kind of somewhat of a slow pace, right? Had that match with whoever it was a few months ago, and then just recently did this single match with Taza. Mm-hmm. Hasn't done any of the trials. 2 no-gi matches. He's probably not getting invited. But the next season, trial season, I guarantee he's going to do a couple matches this year, maybe next year, do trials. I guarantee he wins trials.
Yeah.
And I almost bet he trounces at the next ADCC.
Yeah, I think too. It's weird. There have been a lot of, probably I think in the next 2 years we're going to see a lot of big changes to ADCC, and I wouldn't even be surprised if he got an invite. Like, and he didn't even have to do trials.
Yeah, he honestly might. I mean, if he's beating multiple trials medalist, trials winner, like that handedly in a singles match, like. Yeah, he's probably getting an invite.
Yeah, and
if he does 1 or 2 more of those matches against someone at that level, He's getting an invite.
He's got so many golds in gi, and I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if he got a invite because I think we're at a point where we see a lot. There's going to be a big passing of the guard coming soon. Like we got people like Craig's not doing ADCC anymore. Yeah. We got like a lot of people I think bowing out nowadays. Like I don't know how the weight classes are going to figure, but I think we've got a young guard coming in. I mean, we've got certain people who are super old that are competing. I mean, it's heavyweight, but certain people that are really old that I'm like, that person does not deserve to be at ADCC. But
there's a fair few of them.
Yeah, but it's
like you have no prospect of winning this. But.
Yeah, I don't know why you're getting invited, but you're only getting invited to ruin a 23-year-old's day.
Yeah.
You're not there to win.
No.
I see him doing really well. We'll see how the whole ADCC thing works out, but I think Tainan does really well, and I think that's his goal now because I mean he's done everything he needs to do in gi.
Yeah.
So that was our episode 6 of the Jiu Jitsu Journal.
Right, 6.
Yeah, I think we're at 6. Episode 6 of the Jiu Jitsu Journal. You can listen on Spotify, on Podbean. You can watch the video version on YouTube. If you wanted to follow along with the YouTube footage, I'll have that link in the Podbean and Spotify. We have a Patreon. If you'd want to support the Patreon, you can. Coming up soon, we are doing exclusive content soon. As soon as I finish my homework, then we'll have that up for you guys. Sneak peek, we are going to probably be doing a book club type podcast, and we're going to discuss the book Dune.
Woo!
Yeah, and it's going to be a full discussion. Probably going to cover... Jack has read all 6 books and seen the movies. I have read 0 books, about to be 1. About to have read the first book, and we're going to discuss the first book and the movies probably, and how they tie together. Be excited for that. And if you want to listen to that, that'll be on the Patreon. But if there are any requests you have of matches you want us to cover, any questions you have, hit us up. You can hit us up on the Patreon, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you. Anything else you want to
say? Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Again, recommend it to people if you know somebody who would benefit from tape study or having their mind more in the game, or just to listening to things about jiu-jitsu and combat sports.
Awesome. Thank you.